4.1 directly after 2.2? Is that, am I
Yes.
correct? Yes. Okay. Do I have a second on that motion? Second. Any discussion on the motion to amend the agenda? Hearing no discussion, we'll call a vote. All those in favor of amending the agenda to move item 4.1 to immediately after 2.2, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Senator Cortez Howden, you were going to make an amendment.
Correct. Sorry, the title? Your title in the agenda? Yes. Yes.
To take district out, does
Yeah, my title hasn't changed.
In the description of
I was gonna say, it doesn't say, it only says director, oh, in the
in the description. Okay, so that is your motion? To remove the word director?
or no, just district.
District, sorry. To remove the word district from the description in item 4.1. Is that, am I stating your?
Yeah, that's fine.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the amendment? Then we'll call the vote. All those in favor of removing the word district from the description for Director Steele, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, so we will strike the word district. Okay, so I will entertain a motion to approve the amended agenda.
So moved.
So moved first by Bill Torini. Do I hear a second? Second by Senator Cortez Howden. Any discussion on the item to approve the agenda as amended? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions?
No.
The motion carries. Moving to item 2.1, consideration of the meeting minutes from August 22nd, 2025. Maya, I believe you had.
I did. Motion to amend the agenda
Yep.
The minutes.
minutes, the minutes to reflect striking agenda and describing it as minutes.
Okay.
And we have a second from Senator Cortez Howden. Any discussion on that motion to strike the word agenda from the very top where it should read minutes? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of making that change say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Any further discussion or questions of the minutes?
Move to approve as amended.
Vote, we have a motion to approve as amended. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Bill Torini. Any discussion on the motion? Sorry, can't want to say agenda. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, so moving on, since we have amended our agenda for today, we'll move immediately to item 4.1, District Canvas Policy Issues. You may recall from our last meeting or from reviewing the minutes that after our discussion of several Canvas issues, a motion was made and passed to extend an invitation to the Director of Distance Education and Instructional Technology, Jody Steele, to come and address your concerns. On behalf of the Senate, I would like to extend our thanks to Director Steele and Academic Technology Systems Specialist John Wilson, who is also here, for agreeing to join us today to explain exactly what is happening with Canvas and to address our questions and concerns. So I guess to start us off, since we don't really have a format here, Director, I would ask that you please detail for the Senate what changes were made to the Canvas platform? And then what was the impetus for making those changes? And if you'd like to stand at the podium or where you're at, wherever.
I can stand at the podium if that's more comfortable for you all. You can all see me. First of all, thank you for inviting us. I truly believe that communication is improved when you're in the same room versus being online, which I think people expect me to have a bias that I prefer online, but I don't. It has a place and a space, but I do thank you for having me here, and I recognize that there have been a lot of changes to Canvas. Some of them have affected institutions more than others, and so I'm happy to address those, but my main purpose for being here is to for us to brainstorm some ways that we can help and be available to you to work out some of the issues, and but most importantly, to be here to support you. I recognize that you all are without that coordinator or instructional designer since May, and that puts you in a special position of needing more support, and we're prepared to offer that if we can, and we'll rely on your direction. The changes that were made in Canvas are twofold. One is the role of instructional designers that was asked for by the instructional designers. We did have a district Canvas user group that had been in place, had worn out its welcome since 2016, and hadn't really changed much. It was intended just to be there to help our transition from Blackboard to Canvas in 2017. So it really was, and I agree with the instructional designers, it wasn't effective. And so they proposed last October to the group that we separate out and retire that group so the instructional designers could meet separately to focus on pedagogical issues. And they had a whole list of things they wanted. And then they asked that we take over the technology, the responsibility for the technology things, like updating LTIs and just the other integrated technology things. Canvas has really grown. It is a system. You know, it's integrated with every other system in a student's ecosystem. And that has, I would say, been ignored. You know, the SIS system goes into there, counseling happens there, you have student clubs, all these things that Canvas has been expected to be everything to everyone. And that has been great up until a certain point when the portal and MFA and the SSO and things that district IT has done to limit access has greatly affected Canvas. So first and foremost, that division was requested by the instructional designers, and that happened, our last meeting at the district was in February, and the instructional designers met after that. We didn't have any engagement with them after that. I was supposed to come to a meeting that was in, I think it was one of their last instructional designer meetings, to talk about Turnitin and Grammarly that were floating around, but their meeting got canceled, so I wasn't able to speak on that. Our move to the district in our positions was due to the fact that we were already performing district level work. And I was especially concerned about that as John, as a classified member, was asked routinely by instructional designers and others for his expertise in how Canvas works. And that I felt was working him out of his class. And then as his supervisor, there were things that we would consult about in managing Canvas, not the instructional side, right? The learning of the learning management system, that's the instructional side. The management when it comes to security, honoring privacy of both faculty work and student data, that's the management I see, and then the system is all the integration that we see. Prior to us moving to the district in February, there was not a single person that was Canvas admin at the level. Yet they have a root account. And that created all types of issues. And I think the instructional designers were asked to do and expected to do more than they should have. I had commented before to the union even about Erin and all the hats that she was being asked to wear. It was more that was in her position, more that was in her job description. And so I really felt that that was unfair to her. So that's why we were moved to the district. The timing was good because prior to that move in February, there had been some security issues with Canvas, and Todd was there last Tuesday when I was talking about some of those specifically. Did you want me to recount a couple
If you would.
Sure. Yeah, and there are several, but we have chosen to highlight two that really I couldn't have anticipated students doing what they've done. And they exposed the gaps that we have left in the way we define Canvas, the way we set up permissions, sub-accounts, all those things. And so the two examples we have, one is the Patel case, we call it, because he exposed so many vulnerabilities. He was actually active throughout the state in financial aid fraud. He had been a student in the State Center District in May of 23. He was allowed to complete a course and get a grade, although he submitted nothing. That course also was changed. The term date was changed to a course date, and it was left open. So when he went back in the beginning of spring 2025, he was able to gain access into Canvas, and he searched for all of these open enrollment public courses, which, look, I mean, naively or whatever you want to say, we've made a lot of courses public so that other folks can see them and engage with them. So that turned out to be a vulnerability because we had hundreds of courses that he was able to search for, add into, and message thousands of students. Yeah.
Now, when you say courses, are you referring to our academic courses that we're offering, like a biology class, or are you referring more to organizations that have used Canvas, like a committee or something like that?
It's both. Because sometimes faculty want to keep their courses open to students after, for whatever reasons, that's their purview. But those he was able to seek out. He was able to use Python, which is a coding language, to seek out courses that he could get into. So he was actually in 65 of our courses district-wide. It was former Academic Senate President and Dean at Clovis that really started raising the flag about this Patel person. And when she searched into his student records, just found these weird anomalies that he wasn't really registered in anyway. I had asked one of the engineering clubs if they recognized him. They said no. So we found that he had messaged thousands of students, sending them this story about he's new, and he wants to develop friendships, and gave them a Discord account. And then and I noticed it was mostly women, then he would ask for their phone numbers, and he did receive several phone numbers. So the fact that he was able to get in and access was also due to something called access tokens. And I don't remember if it was computer science from this, Madera, Benny? Yeah, I don't remember. So the use of access tokens is common for computer science courses, right? Not a red flag at all. But we had it open to where anybody could create an access token. And so that also provided access to other things in campus. The other example is Savannah, who has been a student for a year and a half, and her account had been compromised 3 times. The first 2 times, one in the fall, one in the early spring, her account was compromised and used to, again, infiltrate into open courses and send thousands of messages to individuals offering a free MacBook. If you've ever gotten one of those emails, we're savvy enough to know that this is not true. But to those inbox messages, students responded back and contacted Savannah. It's like, what do I need to do? And she was so polite. She said, to a number of them, I don't have a MacBook. If I did, I would keep it. I'm a student. And the response from IT, this college IT, was what you would normally, right? The normal protocol. You need to change your password, right? We have MFA, you need to change your password. So she did that once, it happened again. She did that twice, it happened again. And she was reporting to me, and I called and talked to her, and I said, we're gonna get to the bottom of this. I promise you, this is not gonna happen to you again. So we were really perplexed. We have a lot of precedence issues like this. We're like, what the heck, where is this happening? And since you have Microsoft and the portal, and you have Starfish, you have all these things coming into Canvas, it's really hard for us to address issues that are not Canvas issues, right? The fact that her inbox was being used and it's associated with Microsoft, that's not really a Canvas issue. But we are committed to doing whatever we can to mitigate and talk with the folks who it is their responsibility and find a solution. So when Wilson talked with the local IT directors and found what they had tried to do, he got to thinking about those access tokens again. And so he went into her account, and that's not something we normally look at, by the way. We never thought that this was going to be an issue. And she had three for entry into Canvas. One of those, John searched for the IP address, and it was from Nigeria. So that is how they were getting in and using her accounts. The fact that she was a female student and probably more trustworthy, I believe, led to more people responding to her. When we fixed her account, we talked to her, John talked to her, and said, we think we have it. John monitored her account for 2 days to make sure it wouldn't happen again. We said, unfortunately, you're gonna have to reset your password. And she said, well, I have a whole booklet of them. Why don't you just choose this time? Because she's had several, statements that she's used. Such a, that's our students, right? So that was an experience that really just strengthens us that we need to do what we can for the security and privacy inside Canvas. We had 2 faculty come to us and report that their class materials were plagiarized by another instructor without their permission. And they saw that when they evaluated these faculty members. And we thought, well, what can we do to prevent that? So all of these things have led to the restriction of permissions, of not being able to add students and teachers to live courses. We also discovered that several of the permissions that were built on default roles of teachers, TAs, or designers, because you have to build them on 105, those inadvertently inherit some permissions. So when they inherit those permissions, even though it doesn't look like they can, a student could look at quizzes and assessments, unpublished, look at the answers, and you wouldn't know. And those are a couple of examples for the integrity of Canvas that, we've got to do better than that. So in looking at permissions, again, noting that faculty and IDs were able to develop the quickest solution they could think of to get access, right? The quickest solution they can think of. And often that meant adding people who are not the instructor of record as teachers into their courses. Now, I'm not saying that nefarious things occurred and that these student tutors were changing grades or anything like that, but I can't come to you and say that my confidence level was high, that they weren't. I couldn't say that. So I think the changes that we've made have boosted my confidence that Canvas is more secure. And unfortunately, those changes had to happen quickly. And the Patel one happened in April. And Savannah's was in April as well. And you know, they catch us off guard with, what are we supposed to do here? You know, one of the things that one of the other colleges did is immediately they cut off communication in all Canvas courses. Students cannot message students. Students cannot message the group in all classes. That was an emotional response, and I will say that we did that too for about a day. Then we heard, yes,
Sorry, I was just going to, if we could find a part, but I wanted to go back to something that you just said about the tutor and in your comments about what's the faculty's role, if any, in that decision that you make?
right. So I believe that the office responsible, you have experts who you have as your tutoring center coordinators. They're the ones that hire the tutors, they're the ones that interview them, they're the ones that assign them, and they're the ones that confirm their pay, right? So they're really the ones who are responsible for who is in your course, that they have confirmed is qualified, they have assigned them, they manage their assignment and their pay. So that is what we recognize as that's their authority, right?
Here at Madera, that doesn't happen without faculty participation. I work very close with Ray, the tutor is going to be placed in my classroom. And I think characterizing it as solely the learning center's decision, here at Madera at least, I think would be incorrect.
Yeah, I met with him and we talked about the role, which hadn't been done in a long time, right? The roles that were created before, I think, were created out of convenience. You know, this is what we want them to do. Again, without recognizing that inherited role that comes with it. So I met with him and discussed what access that embedded tutors should have according to the agreement with faculty. According to the agreement between faculty and the tutoring center, right? So that's how those permissions were established.
Sorry, just one quick clarifying question. So were there things that tutors had the ability to do prior that they now do not, and what specifically are those?
No, they do not. We can affirm that they do have, and I just met with Ray before this again. We can affirm that what has been ordered, I guess, for the customized role is happening, but he asked for a modification too. But the tutoring role before was not allowing those tutors to perform the actions that they actually were responsible for. And since the ability to add students and teachers was suspended, any role based on student or teacher, then you couldn't have them, right? So that's why we worked with him, and we're assuring that the roles are limited to what their responsibilities are and no more.
So we're in a little bit of a unique position here at Madera, since we currently do not have a distance education coordinator or an instructional designer, as you mentioned in your opening remarks. But it's my understanding that the permissions of instructional designers across the district, not just at our campus, but across the district, have been restricted for some time, like almost eliminated. But so in looking at the examples that you gave of Atish Patel and Savannah, how does removing the permissions of our local college instructional designers fix those types of security issues? Because those are bad actors using malware to gain access to a student's course, but the instructional designer that I invited into my class to help me fix a Canvas issue or make my course better, it's like a different animal. So I'm just not sure how one security or these security issues on student bad actors equates to stripping away permissions from instructional designers of the district who are hired by the district to do exactly the things that they're supposed to do.
Yeah, and after our meeting on Tuesday, I was baffled by the fact that we didn't seem to be operating on the same information. And I'm gonna say to you that inside the district, there's communication that needs to be improved inside the district in order for our communication to be better with the colleges. There are a set of protocols that we developed that had exactly that, had a list of all the permissions that IDs have, and they still have tons of permissions to help and assist faculty in their live courses. And then in the managed area where the manual created courses are, they have full access there. And I think the fact that those protocols weren't shared with you has led to some assumptions about what the limits are. In that meeting on Tuesday, I had a faculty member who is the DE coordinator. I talked to her at the end and I said, hey, there's a lot of things that were said today that I'm not sure, that's not how I understand things. And she said, the only thing I want is to be able to cross-list my classes and rename them. And I said, well, you still can do that. And she said, I can't? I said, yeah. So I went back to my office and I did a screenshot in one of our dummy accounts. And I did a screenshot and I showed her where the button was. And I sent it to her and she said, oh, I haven't tried since spring and I missed a step. So you have to click on the section and then the cross list button will show up. So that assumption that she couldn't do something was the accepted assumption without actually trying. So that's what I really want. I'm happy to go over every single thing that they can do. There's about 75 permissions and they still have about 62 of them.
Actually, question for the chair before I ask anything to Dr. Steele and Mr. Wilson. I saw on the agenda that we reserved 30 minutes for time. Where are we against that 30 minutes right now?
I don't have an official clock.
Oh, okay. If you're not ready to talk, then I don't need to make a motion. So just want to know if I need to make a motion to extend time.
We're apparently roughly 20 minutes into it.
20 minutes? Okay. I'll try not to talk all of it. Dr. Steele, a request of you, and I guess all folks working with Canvas from this point forward. In your response to President Kandarian just now, you used the expression cost list, and I understand that's used frequently in Canvas, and I'm going to request that that no longer be used because the cost list has a Title V definition, and it's inappropriately used in that context.
I know, and I agree with you. When Canvas is being used for things like student services, where they're not teachers, they're counselors, or, this cross-list thing, I can't change the words that are in Canvas, right? I can't change that process. If you go out to the Canvas community and you look at how to do something, it's how to cross-list. So I get it that...
How can we go about changing that expression? I mean, somebody has to be able to develop an LMS that complies with state regulation. Because this is clearly confusing a lot of our conversations.
Yes, it is.
And I know of one in particular on Madera that has created a lot of problems that I don't have time to get into, but the curricular problems are overwhelming here.
Yes.
So how might one go about, who do we address this request to, if not you?
Yeah, and I've been thinking about that too, Bill, because, scheduling and course assignment, that's not in the wheelhouse,
Well, the Canvas would be, I would assume.
Canvas is,
So who controls it then?
but the ability for faculty to merge their own courses has been a long-standing
So we
practice.
can call it cross enrollment. We don't need to call it cross listing.
Yeah, it actually says cross the.
I know, but how do you get that changed is my question, because
No.
And unless I'm misunderstanding this, at this point, you're the district Canvas expert. So I'm asking you where we go.
I don't know where to go, Bill, because if you go out and look, all the universities, all the colleges around the country and the world use that term. It is a Canvas term. I do agree with you that there is some work that can be done internally to talk about what that means, right? To come up with maybe another definition for what that means, and also the standards. That's been a conversation in some of the distance ed listservs, is about, should faculty be able to do this, should they not? If they can, are there certain circumstances that they should do it or not? And again, I don't know how things are, classes are scheduled, but I would start there.
Because years ago when Canvas first replaced Blackboard, I was part of the pilot group. I cannot recall who sponsored the training, but it was those who had programmed Canvas. So I know that there are humans behind this who can go in and reprogram. I don't think we're on the cusp of the Terminator generating its own AI to reprogram Canvas yet. But I was just wondering what corporate entity controls this that we might be able to address. And what I'm hearing is you don't know.
Yeah, you know what? I think it would be a good question for the CCMS, which is the Canvas Course Management System group that all the colleges are a part of. Academic Senate has representatives on that. Classified Senate, Johnson Classified Senate rep on that. I attend that.
That's a local body, or is that statewide?
It's statewide. It's part of the CDC.
Okay.
And they have the people from Canvas in that meeting. And I would think that since it's been a part of conversations in the listserv, maybe that would be a good place for that conversation.
Okay.
And if you wanted me to share when those meetings are with someone, I'd be happy to do it. We can also carry the message forward if you'd like. Happy to do whatever we can.
Senator Cortez, to be recognized.
So your office, you're making changes and decisions as it relates to Canvas and E.
I am making recommendations. Dr. Frost is authorizing the changes.
Right, okay, so you're under Vice Chancellor of Educational Services. Can you elaborate?
Yeah.
What is your, what are your qualifications to speak on Canvas?
Oh,
And
goodness.
then in general, your qualifications on DE.
Oh.
You know, we corrected your title.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time understanding how it's not a district DE. And it seems like that's what your role is acting out as. I'm trying to understand that better.
That's interesting. Thank you for asking me that, because I've been wanting to talk about my qualifications for a long time. Because I was at Mr. Latham and I were at Merced College together, where I was full-time faculty for 15 years. I taught history. And I was a three-way flyer before that for 3 years. When my son was born in 2002, I taught my full load of history online in 2002. I've been in the space for a long time. When I was the coordinator at Merced, I started seeing that there were other issues with DE going on. I was the co-chair of the CCC DECO, which is the DE coordinator group in the state. And so I went back and got my PhD in leadership in higher ed. My dissertation was on the efficacy of digital tools on student learning. And at that time, it was a quasi-experiment that I performed at Merced. And if you'll indulge me, the outcomes of that were, we were looking at clickers for Apple learning. And the outcomes of it were that you could teach a student how to click the buttons, but actually teaching them how to learn with it, that was another story. And I see that same thing happening with DE, with all these digital tools, all of that. That work has shaped who I am today too. When I saw that, and I was the head of my department, senior member, I had served as a dean for a year and said, no, thank you. When I saw that State Center and specifically Fresno was offering what looked like a dream job to me as a faculty member, do it right as an administrator. And the fact that it was on the cusp with CDC and all of those really historical changes, I wanted to be a part of that. And so I was hired at Fresno in a position that was already held by somebody, right, that had left.
What title is that?
That's the title I have now.
Which is?
Director of Distance Education and Instructional Technology.
Okay, so that was at City.
Yes.
Now?
Yeah, and so, as I mentioned earlier, because of, look, none of the colleges had a John Wilson, who is an expert not only in technology systems, but also how to integrate in Canvas. And then my role in, knowing about compliance and security issues, understanding how systems integrate, but really understanding instruction too. And for a long time, I think the criticism has been that the district, there's no voice of instruction. And so I was eager to be a part of that because we would point out regularly major issues that their technology folks they're very siloed. You have a portal admin, you have a Microsoft admin, you have a colleague admin, but they don't interact with each other. And all of those things are integrated into Canvas. So I am the co-chair of the CDC consortium right now. That's an elected position. It's my second term. Before COVID hit, I was the co-chair of the CDC advisory committee. That was my second term. So as far as statewide issues and interacting with colleagues from around the state, not just administrators, but faculty, I feel it really gives me a unique position for our district, for the colleges.
I think I'm hearing the experience. I'm not hearing a lot of the tremendous experience. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it almost sounds like you see your role as the faculty input, like you're bringing that faculty perspective, but you're not faculty. So I'm wondering where the official voice of the faculty come into these decisions.
Yeah, and thank you for asking, because that's not what I was saying at all. Okay. Because for me, the tech folks, if they don't understand how the end user is affected, right, then they're making decisions in a vacuum. So I do think that I understand instruction because I've been in it. You hear about administrators that are criticized, they never taught before. Why are they say that? Because they don't understand. And I'm not making faculty decisions. Absolutely not. You guys have local groups. You had local representation on these statewide groups too. And now you don't. And I didn't want to be in this position for Madera, but your president asked us and we thought that who else is going to do it? I mean, you guys need some support.
Just not to interrupt your flow.
Sure.
We're basically
just about at time.
So I will entertain a motion at this time. I'm going to go to this one. She has the motion.
I would just like to make a motion to extend this discussion by 10 minutes with the understanding that that would extend the meeting length by 10 minutes.
I have a motion to extend both the discussion and the meeting by 10 minutes. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Bill Torini. Do I have any discussion on that motion? All those in favor of extending both the meeting and the discussion period by 10 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. And Elizabeth.
I'd like to continue on from what you were saying about your experience. I've been a part of our DE committee for quite some time now here at Madera College, and I feel like we've been hearing a lot of different stories regarding your position, what the title is, and what the description is. So, for instance, Don Lopez went on record in DTAC as well as the Canvas Task Force saying that your position as district distance ed coordinator is a 1-year pilot position, and I believe that was sometime around the fall semester of last year, a pilot program that was specifically for 1 year. But then, in the board meeting that happened a couple months ago, the chancellor shared that, what you said, that it's not a new position, that it's a position that already existed, and that it just moved from Fresno City to the district.
Yes.
To my knowledge, there wasn't a hiring committee formed. There wasn't a job description put out. There's not a list of duties that your position is in charge of. So I just, want to get a better idea of what exactly your position is. Is it new? Is it a one-year pilot program? If so, is it going to be extended in October, November, whenever it was created? Because if I remember correctly, you were referencing the Patel case that happened in April of this year.
Yes.
But your position was created in last fall.
It was not, we didn't start until February of this year. But I think
on record saying that your position was a one-year temp last fall.
Yeah, Fresno and the president there wanted to keep me longer. They were going through accreditation and things like that, so that was negotiated with the interim president at that time to keep me at Fresno for a little longer. And I hear what you're saying, and I don't think that Don Lopez called me a DE coordinator because that is not my job. But Chancellor Goldsmith came to the meeting on Tuesday and offered clarification on what my position is, what my role is, and where I'm located.
So you're officially with the district, right? And
My location
is that the position of 1 year temp or not?
So Todd was there when she shared that information, so I would prefer to have him share how he interpreted what she said.
The chancellor said that it was not a new position that was created, but rather that the position was moved from FCC to the umbrella of the district. She cited several other positions that had either been at the district and moved back to local colleges or vice versa. But as far as when the position began or ended or what the term of that position was, she did not speak to that.
So your position, you could say, is permanent?
I would say that Chancellor Goldsmith would be the one to talk to about that in HR.
Okay.
I am just doing my job that under Vice Chancellor Ross.
I have another quick ask. Can you send us your job description, and can John also send us?
I think you can ask HR for that. You can ask HR for that. You have.
We've asked HR for that. Several different people have, and nobody can seem to get it. So usually what I've found is that instructional designers, DE coordinators, people who are involved in those tech side, generally they have their job descriptions because they're always trying to make sure they're meeting all those points. So, I mean, if you happen to have that, it would be greatly appreciated if you forwarded it to us.
I'll bring that back to Deputy Chancellor Holt.
So just a few follow-up questions from that. I would really appreciate a copy of your current job description and also the job description that you were issued when you became the Director of Distance Education and Instructional Technology at Fresno City, because there is fundamentally a difference in being in that local role. Even though your title hasn't changed, you're very clearly doing different things. Even though you've stated that at Fresno City you were kind of already doing district level things, now it's officially sanctioned, and your organizational structure, which is visible in Outlook, is completely different. So I'd like to see both copies and to do a comparison of the two. Also, all of the, and I know you've clarified you're not a district director, but all of the district director positions and most of the director positions are available, the job descriptions, on schooljobs.com. So for management, for CSEA, we can access those, but yours is not. And so, again, I think with transparency and just cultivating that trust, it would be important for us to see copies. I also, from the notes that I saw from Tuesday's meeting, I think that Chancellor Goldsmith said something about there not being any stipulation about it being permanent. So again, I'm curious about how long this is expected to last. And then I also wanted to go back quickly to the tutor role, because I'm just trying to understand the timeline here, because for the past few years, we've had our own MCC tutoring role. And then Vice Chancellor Frost's email on August 15th stated that the tutor role for all campuses was created July 25th. From what you were saying earlier, it sounds like whatever you all decided at the district level is maybe the same as what we had before. It wasn't clear, sorry, based on your answer. Also, at the September 5th DTAC meeting, from the notes that I saw, you stated that prior to you working with VPs on specialized permissions, tutors were given a teacher role on Canvas, which again is just simply not true for Madera. And it's just really briefly going back to an earlier point you made about the value of having someone with an instructional background in these spaces. That is something that we at Madera have been struggling with for so long, because we have so many instructors who are tapped by administration to go into these spaces and speak for instructors, and that's just not participatory governance. And at the Tuesday meeting, you had an example shared, I think, from Fresno City about where they went through an extensive participatory governance process following actual policy, and that was the decisions that were made were ignored by the district. So I really want to push back on that idea that having someone with an instructional background takes the place of those, and I'm not saying that that's explicitly what you were stating, but the implication is there, and it continues to be there locally and at the district, that takes the place of participatory governance, and it simply is not.
First of all, I just really want to say thank you for being willing to be here today. And I hope that you understand that a lot of our questions just come from a place of, we don't know who to ask these questions to. You know, we don't have that local ID right now. I don't know what falls under a DE coordinator and what falls under a director. And so a lot of these questions are just, where do we get our questions answered, right? And I don't mean to open like a gigantic can of worms before our time is just about up here, but in the email from Dr. Frost that we received, and everyone's familiar with the email, right? There was a lot of mention of deletions of either files, in either instructional files, or we've had our local DTAC reps telling us that there were perhaps something like root level files being deleted. And I'm struggling really to understand, like, where are these deletions coming from and how does that relate to all of these changes? I know that wasn't something that you addressed earlier, and we probably don't have time to get fully into it, but if we have questions on that, where do we go? You know, do we come and ask you? Is this a Dr. Frost question?
Yeah, and I really appreciate you bringing that up, because from our side, nothing is ever deleted from campus. And if it is, we can get it back. We know how to do that.
So when there's mentions of like deletions or whatnot, are there logs that track who was in there and what things were going on? I mean, is that information that's available?
You know, I wish there was, because when I speak to that, those are things that I did not do. Those are things that were done between February and May 23rd. Not by me, but they did create issue. We lost data because roles were deleted, and we had no idea that that was going to happen.
But to your knowledge, there are logs on the Canvas side that will show.
There are individual logs, and we can see some things, but you know, that kind of forensics, it just speaks to the fact that people were doing things in Canvas without any documentation. When somebody would masquerade as you or a student, they did not document it.
Bill was up first.
Yeah,
We are almost at time, so
Yeah.
just.
Dr. Frost's email from August 15th was mentioned earlier. There's a section in 2 here, challenges, problems addressed, subsection titled permissive class attendance. And I'm reading from it as a violation of Title 5, Section 54020 and 58108 to allow students to attend a class in which they are not registered and to bypass the addition of waitlist students by order. This academic senate has long been opposed to allowing students who are not enrolled in classes into Canvas websites. But later in the email, it mentions the addition of waitlisted students that would then have access. That seems to be a violation of the two sections of Title V that Dr. Frost himself cited. So can you speak to that, please?
Yeah. So the waitlist role, because the colleges, except for focus, was still enabling teachers to add students to live sections. So in lieu of that, the waitlist role was a fair compromise. It is read only. It's the student can look at the syllabus, they cannot interact with any of the classmates. It upholds FERPA, but it also is a student equity access issue that they can at least see something and communicate with the instructor inside campus. It is extremely limited.
So either I'm misunderstanding what you're saying or Dr. Frost tragically oversimplified those two sections of Title V. Would you care to let me know which one is accurate?
I think that you should ask him because the waitlist role that we described to him, that was an alternative, that was devised by the Senate at FCC and had been active for 4 years, is what we told him, and then he directed and informed the vice president that was going to happen. And, again, these are his decisions.
I appreciate that you mentioned Fresno City College because it's my understanding from colleagues and during my time of being sentenced, my time at Fresno City last year, there were a lot of complaints regarding student confusion about this waitlist role, and they were thinking that they were enrolled in the class.
That's right.
So from what I heard, and admittedly this is anecdotal, that waitlist seems to be actually, I understand what you're saying about an equity issue, but it actually seems to be more detrimental. It's contrary to the goals of equity, not in line with it.
Yeah, the communication responsibilities of somebody at the college posting an announcement just to waitlist the students, that should have been happening. Faculty should have been explaining what their waitlist policy was for their students. So those are lots of missing pieces. One thing at Fresno that they wanted was the ability to remove that waitlisted student. That was something new that we worked out with district IT. Can you do this? And they did for the first time because the faculty wanted them not to think that they had a chance. Now, the other thing that's happening in enrollment right in self-service is that a student plans to take a course, but they have to convert that over to enrollment somehow. And that is getting missed.
I have to stop.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. So once again, I would just like to thank you for coming to the Madera Community College Academic Senate. If any of the faculty here or on Zoom have any further questions, and I'm sure they do, will you be willing to answer their questions via email? To the extent that you are able to, I mean.
Yeah, I know that email gets a lot of the spirit of what I'm saying is lost.
So no, okay. So Director Steele, John, you're welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting. But if you do have pressing matters to attend to, like, open tickets for Canvas issues, we understand that if you must leave, that's understandable.
Yeah.
But again, thank you for coming.
Yeah, if I could offer as I leave, to work with the Senate to come up with ways that we can improve communication. If you want us to have, if you think office hours here on campus would help in lieu of you not having those roles here. I mean, I don't know what we can do for you. That's up to you to tell me.
We can definitely discuss it as a Senate.
Committee meetings or anything like that, but yeah.
All right.
Feel free, guys.
Well, thank you. Moving on to item 3, informational items. Item 3.1, status of committee membership lists. After compiling